Welcome to Chats with Chambers with your hosts Patrick Kirby and Sammy Bedell Mulhern. Each week we connect and learn from executives of chambers of commerce from across the country. These short episodes will share success stories, challenges, best practices, and tips and tricks to inspire you and provide resources for hitting your organizational goals. From recruiting new and retaining current members to finding new and creative revenue sources, you'll hear straight from those leading chambers and communities throughout the U.S. Chats with Chambers is proudly brought to you by the Nonprofit Bootcamp. Learn more and check out the show notes for episodes at nonprofitbootcamponline.com.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of Chats with Chambers. And today I am joined by Brian Ritter from the Bismarck, North Dakota Chamber of Commerce. Brian, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, this is fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity.
This is going to be super fun. Before we kind of jump into all the amazing things that your chamber does, why don't you share a little bit about Bismarck, kind of what are the businesses like there and kind of what are you known for?
Absolutely. So up here in Bismarck Mandan, North Dakota, we're a metro area of about 130,000 people. I think sometimes that surprises people to realize that our metro is actually that big because we're realists, right? We know that the perception from a lot of the country is that Bismarck Mandan and North Dakota in general is kind of flyover country, and that's okay. We are a growing, thriving community. We've got an incredibly diverse economy right now. We, of course, are the state capital. We've got two large healthcare systems that call Bismarck Mandan home. We've got a thriving, growing education system that includes not only K-12, but 3 colleges. In addition to, of course, North Dakota is home to a lot of energy production as well, whether it's coal, oil and gas, wind. And so that diversity truly has kept Bismarck Mandan growing, thriving at a time when a lot of other places just aren't as fortunate.
Yeah, that's great. I have been to Bismarck before. I went in college. I'm sure it's changed a lot since then. But I love to hear that. That's so great because I think that's true that we there's all these little gems in all the different places of the world that we don't even think about. So that's awesome.
Awesome. And of course, that's part of the beauty of being a chamber, right? Is that you get to tell your story. And for someone like me who was born and raised here and has chosen to raise my family here, it's personal, right? And I think that's what probably makes a lot of us professionals in the industry do what we do, is you genuinely care about your community and the people there.
Well, then this might be a hard question for you since you've been around the chamber in your area for a while, but is there kind of one big win or one project or campaign that you're super proud of that you've been able to accomplish with your time at the chamber?
Absolutely. And so a little bit of background on our organization. We're actually a merged organization. We're actually a merged chamber. What I mean by that is back in 2019, we merged our Chamber of Commerce with our Economic Development Corporation. And I know that's happening throughout the industry, and we're seeing that more and more across the country. But in that time, truly, that has probably been our greatest success, the fact that we're able to successfully merge 2 separate organizations, bring together 2 separate teams, and bring more value to the community in the sense that since the merger, we've seen our membership grow, we've seen our events grow, we've seen our profile grow, we've seen our revenues grow. Every single indicator that we have as an organization, as a community, has gone forward, has advanced, has gone up over the last 5 years.
And do you think part of that is when you have the goals of economic development merged with the goals of the existing business community, it just kind of is a win-win scenario?
Absolutely. The value proposition we always try to bring back to our membership. And when you look at our membership right now, we've got a little over 1,200 members, which for a market our size, I think is pretty good. But more than 70% of those members have less than 20 employees. So we are truly built on small businesses. And so to tell them that not only are we advocating on your behalf, not only are we your voice with local, state, and federal government, we're also the ones trying to keep this community growing to hopefully keep customers coming through your doors. And so at a time when chambers like ours are forced to better explain and have a more concrete value proposition, that has been a really effective argument for us.
So, and I'm going to throw this out there, putting you on the spot a little bit, but we have a lot of chambers that we talk to that are small shops. So they have merged with their CBB or their economic development, not because of the growth opportunities, but because they have one person, right, who's running the whole thing.
Yep.
So do you have any tips for those folks on how you kind of balance where you kind of place your priorities so that you can make sure that, the overall growth is happening where it needs to?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. And to me, it always comes back to the principles of over communication. And I know it's easy to get lost in, well, we have to post something on Facebook or on Instagram or Twitter today, or it's easy to say we have to send out a newsletter. For us, it really has been pick one thing, pick one message and focus on that message. Because whether it's advocacy or whether it's economic development, your members want to know what you're doing. They want to know that their dollar is going to something that's making a difference. So pick what that is, frame the message, pick and choose that narrative, and then focus on that narrative. Because having one thing, in our experience, has proven much more effective than trying to focus on a mixer we had the other night and an event we have coming up tomorrow and a meeting we had with the governor yesterday. Pick that one thing, frame the conversation, choose your narrative.
That is such good advice. And as a digital marketer, makes me very happy to hear you say that, because I couldn't agree anymore.
And it wasn't a plant either, Sammy. So I'm glad we're on the same page.
I love it. Okay. So, as you've grown and it sounds like you guys have had a lot of change, what's something that you have been struggling with within your chamber, and kind of what are you doing to work through that? So
the single greatest challenge facing our economy, and I think a lot of listeners, honestly, is workforce, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you're a chamber of commerce, an economic development corporation, or a merged organization like ours, labor is impacting members of all sizes, of communities of all sizes, regions of all sizes. And so what's been a struggle for us has really been to quantify a workforce development strategy, because workforce development is such a nebulous term, right? It's tough to quantify, because workforce development to me could be something totally different to you. And for us, what we've tried to do is be very linear in the sense that we've tried to lay out workforce development strategies at the middle school level, at the high school level, at college, and then partnering with our young professional network, for that post-college experience, so that we can lay out in a very black and white linear fashion for our members that says, our whole aim in workforce development is to expose kids at middle school to all different types of career opportunities. Then when they get into high school, we have a job shadow program, which we facilitate. And we want to take that interest that you gained in middle school and now spend 2 or 4 hours in a job shadow learning more about that. Then when you get to college, we've created an internship network. And so now you take what you learned in those job shadows, and now you have a 4 or 6 month internship or experiential work opportunity. And we feel that if we can do those 3 things correctly, then ultimately we'll get you to stay here in Bismarck Mandan. So we've tried to take a very nebulous term, make it very black and white, and communicate that to our membership. That's been our biggest struggle.
That seems really smart too, because you're building in a long-term sustainable strategy that will help over time, which also continues to feed your economy, right? If you can keep people staying in college in Bismarck Mandan, and then if they can then take everything they've learned and stay, like, you're kind of really, that investment helps full circle with everything.
Well, I think it surprises a lot of people to know that North Dakota is actually one of the youngest states in the country now. As a result of the population change, our state's actually one of the youngest in the country. In addition, if you look at, I mentioned our metro area is about 130,000 people. We've got about 17,000 students in our pre-K through 12 systems right now. We've got another 8,000 in between our 3 colleges. And so, yes, sometimes it's more difficult to attract new talent to a place like Bismarck Mandan. So let's keep trying to do that, but let's focus our efforts more on the talent that's already here and do a better job of keeping them here, because they've already got the background and the experience. They know how cold winter gets here in Bismarck Mandan, right? We don't have to put that in the brochure. But, if we can do that effectively, then again, we're delivering real value back to our membership, which hopefully keeps the organization growing in the long term.
Well, and going back to the old business principle of it's always cheaper to retain your existing customers than it is to bring in a new one. So
there's no better advice.
Yep. Okay. So what tip would you share? What's kind of one lesson that you've learned as a chamber leader that maybe you wish you had learned earlier, or somebody had told you that you can impart your wisdom on other chamber leaders that are listening?
Call someone every single day. Call a member every single day. Buy lunch for someone every single day. Because one of the challenges that we found was that organizations like ours, and specifically the Bismarck Mandan Chamber EDC, we had developed somewhat of a reputation as we're only calling when we want money, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're almost like fundraisers. Whenever people see Chamber EDC come in the caller ID, well, what do they need? They're just asking for money, right? I think that's something that we all deal with on some level in this field. And so what we started to do here in this office is, so we've got 13 staff. We're a big shop. We've got 13 staff. Every single week, everyone on our staff, including myself, is responsible for calling 2 members proactively just to check in, say thank you for being a member, and then find out how we can help you. No ask, no solicitation, nothing like that. Just true member appreciation. And I can tell you, we've seen that quantifiably increase our membership retention rate to last year somewhere between 93 and 94%.
Wow.
We set a record for new membership last year, and we saw our membership retention rate, like I said, go between 93 and 94% because of that one piece of advice. Call someone, buy someone lunch, take them to coffee, do whatever it is, but just make it about the relationship. And with 365 days a year, you can develop a lot of relationships.
That's really great. That's a really great tip. And it's so easy to do.
It is.
So I love when it's not like some crazy strategy. And do you find then that as your retention rate has grown, that referrals from your members to like, does that then are like they helping you bring in new businesses?
Got another one this morning.
Yeah.
We had an architect member of ours who's doing some work with us, and they said, "Hey, I got you a new member yesterday." and so, how great does that feel, right? As a professional, to hear that your members are doing that business development work for you. So long answer to a short question, but yes, we have absolutely seen that help turn more of our members into our ambassadors.
That's so great. Well, Brian, lots of good tips in this episode for sure. If people want to know more about your chamber, get in touch with you. If they're listening to this, they happen to be moving to the area or just kind of want to know more about it, how do they find out about all of the things?
Absolutely. So just go online, like everyone says, right? Go to our website at bismarckmandan.com. Very simple, bismarckmandan.com. We have tried to make our staff page very engaging. And so you'll find my personal contact info there, along with that of all of our team. And do not ever hesitate to reach out to us, because we always want to make sure that we're helping the industry as well.
That's so great. And we'll have all of those linked up in the show notes at nonprofitbootcamponline.com/podcast. So you can check everything out there. Brian, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I always enjoy talking about the community and our organization. So thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, thanks for listening to Chats with Chambers. For more information about the chamber featured in this episode, or to check out show notes for links and resources, visit nonprofitbootcamponline.com/podcast. Hey, subscribe, give us a 5-star review if you liked what you heard, and if you are a chamber who would like to be a guest on this show, hey, email us. Patrick at dogoodbetterconsulting.com or Sammy at hnemarketingsolutions.com. Links in the show notes.